Hi everybody. So I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you Brand Innovators, thank you 7-Eleven and Team 7-Eleven. Thank you Chili's for co-hosting us today. I'm actually really excited about this panel. We're going to talk a lot about cultural relevance. So I am Alison Teichman. I work at TeamSnap, where we convert families into super fans of brands through youth sports marketing. And now I'm going to have my esteemed panel, Jesse and Luz, they're going to introduce themselves. Tell me a little bit about your roles at Chili's and your experience and what has led you to your roles today.
Hi there, I'm Jesse Johnson. I'm the VP of Marketing at Chili's. Coming up about 1 year at Chili's and recently moved from Portland, Oregon. And I came from the agency side, so my perspective on culture is grounded in my experience at Wieden Kennedy, which is an agency in Portland, Oregon. The agency was founded on the relationship of Dan Wieden and Phil Knight. And Phil Knight said 3 words to Dan Wieden when they started working together. I hate advertising. And that is kind of the ethos of that whole place and the magic of Wieden Kennedy and what they've done. And a lot of agencies have emulated that to great success. This idea that consumers don't actually want to hear about advertising, right? Your ad or what they want you to buy. They want you to make something that adds to culture. They want to make art, make entertainment. Don't make another ad. The world doesn't need that. And so that kind of I was there for 15 years, so you can imagine that kind of really set the stage of how I think about cultural relevance, how I think about advertising, how I think about a brand getting back into the zeitgeist. So really happy to bring that perspective to Chili's. I love the Chili's team and what we're doing, and that's kind of where I come from.
And my name is Luz. I've been at Chili's for 8 years, so I like to say that I was raised by Chili's, which I think is a really nice compliment to Jesse's experience. I've been really lucky to have been raised by some really awesome Chili heads who have really grounded me in the culture, the history of what the Chili's brand is today.
Awesome, thank you guys. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about cultural relevance. And what better brand to talk about it than Chili's, who's been around forever. We all have our own nostalgic feelings and stories, right? I think I just shouted them out to both of them as soon as we met. And so talk to me a little bit about what cultural relevance means to you and what it means to the brand and how you bring that to life.
Yeah, I think the previous panels have done a really great job of answering that, what cultural relevance really is. The way I try to boil it down is this idea of permission. And so have you inserted your brand and culture in a way that a consumer can go participate in your brand, in our case, come to a Chili's restaurant and be really proud of it and want to share in their own social channels or talk to their friends and say, hey, come to Chili's with me. That's the idea that you want to create permissibility. And I think I think we're all kind of chasing that, and some of those journeys take a long time. I think probably the one that happened overnight, if we all thought about it, was McDonald's. And 6 years ago, if you were carrying a brown bag down the street, that was dirty. Carrying McDonald's down the street? What do you mean? A year later, you have people pulling through drive-thrus blasting Travis Scott and posting it on TikTok, and it's everywhere. Last month they're posting Grimace shakes, and you're wearing your cactus plant flea market sweatshirt. I mean, they've really made that change, and they've created permissibility. How you carry your McDonald's bag. What's in the bag? It's a little bit different. And so that's the journey that you're on. I think if you can just ground it, I think a lot of times it could be paralyzing to think about how do you create relevance for your brand, and there's so many great things. You saw the amazing work from the 7-Eleven team. It's like, wow, how do I, with my brand, how can I get to that level? But if you just ground it in how do I give people permission to talk about my brand, I think that's a great spot. And for us, Chili's was out of the zeitgeist for a long time, and recently we're starting to come back, and we've got a long way to go, but we're starting to make strides. The thing I would encourage you with is to really start from authenticity, and now more than ever, consumers are looking at brands and saying, are you being authentic to yourself? And so we always started from that. We were lucky enough as a Chili's brand to have just this treasure trove of assets, and we always talk about it like, hey, we're going to climb into the attic, the Chili's attic, and we're going to go dust off all the cool things that you left and make them relevant again and make them modern again. And there's so many things. The first one that we jumped on, that we knew at some point we were going to use, was baby back ribs. Who knows the baby back ribs song? Yeah, that thing's been living rent-free in your head for 20 years. I remember when I left, there's not a single Chili's in the state of Oregon I left Oregon. I was like, hey, I'm leaving the state. It's like Narnia of this greenery. I'm moving to Dallas, Texas to work at Chili's. And I told some of my really close friends, and they didn't even say congratulations. Why? They just looked at me and go, Chili's, huh? I want my baby back. 50%, I'm not exaggerating, 50% of the conversations went that way. That's the first thing they clicked through. So we knew at some point it was going to happen. Lo and behold, we get this email to George that was, hey, Boyz II Men used to get confused as the original singers of the Baby Back Ribs jingle, and they would like to set the record straight. Would you like to partner with them? And we're like, I don't know that I've ever gotten an email forwarded to me faster, and I've never responded to an email faster than Boyz II Men. And you think about, for our guests, one of our top targets is this millennial family, and they, in the 90s and early 2000s, they have this nostalgia, and it is hot right now in advertising. And what it also links you back to is probably the last time they went to Chili's, if we're being honest. There's a big gap for those people. And so we jumped on it, and we wanted to create some magic, and we're going to roll a video. It's the first video there of this recent campaign that we did around the Baby Back Ribs.
All right, fellas, remember the agreement. We're here for the meal. We're not going to be discussing it, and we're absolutely not singing it.
It's bad enough that everybody thinks this is our song. We're Boyz II Men, not the guys that sing the... I want my baby back, baby back, baby back.
What was that?
What was what? It sounded like you were singing, I want my baby back.
No, I thought you said you wanted to sing.
Hey, we're not singing, I want my baby back. No.
Now you're singing it.
No, listen, I was just imitating you guys because you guys were singing, I want my baby back, baby back.
Baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back. Let's go. I want my baby back. I want my baby back. I want my baby back. Oh, Chili's baby back ribs. Oh, Chili's baby back ribs. Yeah. Chili's baby back ribs. Chili's baby back ribs. I want my baby back ribs. Barbecue sauce.
Okay. That was just one time. We're not singing anymore, guys. We're not singing.
Baby back, baby back. I want my
No,
baby back.
no. Oh.
I want my baby back ribs. Barbecue sauce.
You're welcome. That's going to be in your head all day. But speaking of cultural relevance, you can't always plan for moments. For us, a lot of people go into our restaurants every single day. And a moment that really fell on our laps was a gal who had her wedding catered by Chili's. We had no idea. She organized it herself, and she posted about it on TikTok and went viral. Oops. This is the proposal video. The Today Show picked it up. We really jumped on the conversation, and we knew that we really had to lean in. And how did we lean in? How did we make it about ourselves? We decided to get into wedding catering now, and so we launched a TikTok video that went viral for the brand. It performed 4 times over our average engagement rate, and we hired a fake Chili's executive to make the formal announcement that we're into wedding catering, and we're gonna cater the first 4 people who get engaged at Chili's, and we're gonna gift them with the catering of their wedding. And within, I think, 12 hours, 4 people got legitimately engaged at Chili's. They posted about it on TikTok, and their partners were totally surprised and delighted. And so that was just kind of a moment that we really leaned into that cultural relevance.
In light of recent events, specifically a wedding in Savannah, Georgia that was entirely catered by Chili's, we have decided collectively that we're just going to lean into this whole wedding catering thing. The first 3 couples to propose marriage at Chili's I will pick up their entire catering bill for their wedding in full. Look, you propose at a baseball park? Neat, cool, great, but we can't help you. We can help you, but you have to pay for that. Anyway, your marriage is going to go great. I'm also being told that you should upload your Chili's proposal video to TikTok and tag Chili's to be considered. So, here goes nothing.
And I think what's important with this is to also be super timely. By the time the gal went viral, the Today Show picked it up, it was maybe a Wednesday, and we knew we had very limited time. So we posted this by the next Monday so that we can really capitalize on the conversation and then also have all those PR articles follow up with a response.
So, we know cultural relevance is all about being on trend, what's happening now, will be happening tomorrow. But as brand marketers, right, we've got a room full of them here, you all know that it's really important to know your audience, to understand your audience and know what your audience wants. So please tell me a little bit about how you kind of balance all of that.
Yeah, I think that's the trap, especially with this kind of layer of work kind of as you're building your marketing plans. You know, there is that a time for advertising and really getting a certain product or that's important to drive traffic or to drive sales. But when you're looking at this body of work that's in this cultural relevance category, I think the biggest thing is to figure out where's your audience with your brand. It's almost the flip. And typically we try to push out our message and have them, accept it, and then we've got a target and we've got a media plan. That's how we're going to get to them. I think if you flip it, that's where you really start to figure out where's your starting point with them. So in our case, it's like, hey, what is probably the first thing that a majority of people think about when they hear Chili's, if they haven't been recently? Anyone you want to lob out? When's the last time you saw Chili's in pop culture?
Margaritas.
Yeah, margaritas. That's great. That's a good segue. For a lot of people, it's The Office. And so this is, the margaritas, this is like, hey, we've got to get Pam her second margarita. I feel God in this Chili's tonight. That's where people go from. If you go through our Twitter, probably about, 5 or 6 Office gifs on every single post. That's the first thing they go to. There's a Michael Scott one. There's a Pam one. You'll see those over and over. And so that spot of The Office, you think about that Chili's guest, probably watching a lot of Office reruns on Peacock or on NBC. Like it's just typically there's a comfort there. I come from the Midwest. Like I've got a lot of friends that just start season 1 over as soon as they get to the end. And so we knew that was probably for a lot of people a starting place for their last time they thought about Chili's. And so as we went into margaritas, thank you for the segue. We had this great idea. We're really we're the #1 margarita sales in America. There's so many great stats about how many margaritas Chili's truly sells. And so as we're thinking about that and really starting to bring more premium margaritas to Chili's, we thought about, man, there's such a great variety of margaritas here that any one of these could send you down a different kind of night. And it's almost like if they were just two perfect friends sitting at the bar talking about what kind of margarita should they order. That would be perfect. We thought of the Office ladies. So Jenna and Angela, who played Pam and Angela in The Office, talking about margaritas and which Chili's margarita they want to go from. It's a great spot from where people have last thought about Chili's and how we can reinsert that into their minds. If you play the Marga Festo, which is a great one, word.
At Chili's, it all starts with a marg. Are we thinking this is a birthday marg? It could be a birthday marg. I mean, it kind of looks like a birthday marg. Actually, it could be a weekend marg. Weekend marg energy, yes. Yes. Marg, 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 marg. Or, lazy marg. Yes. Chili's, it all starts with a marg.
So this campaign was so fun. Not only did people recognize them immediately, but they had such personal connections to the brand. So Pam more through Jenna more through her character Pam, where she was permanently banned from Chili's. I think we recently in 2017, 2018 reinstated, and she was allowed to come back. But she had such an iconic moment with margaritas. And then Angela's husband was actually a bartender at Chili's, and so she has a deep knowledge just through her family. And so there's that real connection, which really helped the PR coverage and things like that pull through. So a really fun way to talk about that. That line, it all starts with the marg, it was really more about the cultural relevance and thinking about where that could go. But now it's part of our L&D for our team members, our learning and development. So when you come, it came from a marketing campaign, but now when you go sit at a Chili's, a team member is going to come to you and say, Hi, I'm Jesse, welcome to Chili's. It all starts with a mark and I get you a handshake at Presidente. So that whole thing of like coming from cultural relevance and now it's part of the experience inside the restaurant is like a really great way to really show what this can lead to.
Awesome. And then leaning into what's happening now and how we can capitalize on those moments. I'm sure all saw the TikTok of Taylor Swift shouting out her boyfriend during a show in Brazil. And all of social media was talking about it. I think the quote was, "Karma is my boyfriend from the Chiefs," something like that. And so all of social was going crazy. They were taking their own takes. People were taking it about their husband or their favorite brand, and we knew that we could really jump in and capitalize in the moment in a way that legal wouldn't get mad at us either. And so we tweeted, "Karma is the guy taking me to Chili's." The tweet performed insanely well, and we were like, hey, the audience of X, Twitter, is also really similar to Instagram, and so let's take the tweet and take it to Instagram and see how our audience reacts to it. And within a matter of minutes, everyone in my feed was resharing it to their stories or resharing it to their friends. So just a moment of really capitalizing of what's going on right now and making it about ourselves in a way that's not too thirsty. Yeah. And then our audience loves humor, especially our TikTok audience. And it's really hard to be funny, but still family friendly, and then not use any licensed music. And so us, along with our agency, have gotten really creative in how we could talk about what's going on now. And we did an execution on TikTok leaning into Halloween. We know that what happens during Halloween is like every shopping mall becomes a spirit Halloween. And so we were capitalizing on that insight, and it's like, what if the Chili's down the street became a spirit Halloween? And so we went live with this TikTok that went insanely viral for us, 4 million views organically, which doesn't happen. I think I did the math, it's 100x times views than we usually get. And so it was a really fun moment. Our audience really loved it. A lot of people messaged me from the company, hey, is this real? And so it was a fun one. You can run that next.
Okay, great. So if anyone has fandom on their bingo card today, we're going to talk about fandom. I know we talked a lot about this already today. 7-Eleven was talking about, really leaning into car culture in the NFL, and we heard about Core Water really leaning in, reacting quickly to musicians, Avocados from Mexico, of course, being in the Super Bowl. So tell me, I'd like to hear from you guys, because I think the reason why we're matched up today is because there's a lot of alignment between the families of youth sports and the families at Chili's. And so knowing your audience, there is kind of that nostalgia, right, that we keep talking about. We talk about it at TeamSnap from the nostalgia of our own youth sports and how brands can come in and bring that nostalgia back, but also supporting our kids today. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you create fandom for your audience specifically. We talked a little bit about relating cultural relevance and fandom to your brand purpose. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I think an example of fandom is the Office ladies that we just showed, right? Really leaning into the Office. And then another example of how we've really nurtured fandom is leaning into a community we didn't even know had an overlap with Chili's, which is the Barbs. Is anybody here a Barb? You're secretly a Barb, I know it. The Barbs are the Nicki Minaj fans, very much like the Swifties to Taylor Swift. And over a year ago, when Nicki Minaj came out with Freaky Girl, we knew it was trending on Twitter, and we were like, how can we jump in a way that makes sense to Chili's? And so we tweeted an anagram of Freaky Girl, but with Chili's menu items, and it went viral that day. And we were like, okay, this is interesting. And then that night, Nicki Minaj retweeted it. And we were like, oh, this is really interesting. And then we got hundreds of thousands of tweets from the Barbs saying, Chili's, what are you going to do for us? Where's our discount? Where can we celebrate Nicki? And so we essentially engineered a Barb's Day at Chili's. And it happened September of 2022. And we launched a drink. It's not revolutionary. It's literally our Presidente Margarita but make it pink like the barbs. And we had thousands and thousands of barbs come out that day. That day, Chili's Grill and Barbs trended on X for like 8 hours of just fans going to Chili's and sharing their drink. We incentivized them. We made merch that looked like Nicki Minaj merch but wasn't. And if you posted it, you could win merch for free. But not only did it excite the fandom, it excited our team members. We realized that our team members are huge barbs. They made balloon arches. They wore pink wigs. Like we really ignited the cult of the barbs at Chili's. So it was really great to see that there was an overlap between those communities that honestly we would have never really realized unless we had taken that swing and then we had nurtured it.
Love it. That's awesome. I'd love to say look under your chair for your own. What about it? Okay, so now we're going to talk about, listen, we've seen a lot of great examples, a lot of the fun, exciting, sexy examples. Now we're going to get into some marketing and branding sexiness by talking a little bit about the execution and the activation of it all, right? Like we want to see what's behind the scenes, how do these things get made? And so first and foremost, what channels do you guys look for to create these types of cultural relevant programs?
Yeah, we go across the gamut. I think the big change, the big shift that we look at is that there used to be this consumer journey. Anyone ever make a campaign like, all right, here's the consumer journey. First, they're going to see our teaser, and they're going to want to think about it 3 days later. Then they're going to see, it's all the way down. That's not happening. That's not happening. People don't have time. This is too fragmented. And so the flip of that is instead of the consumer journey, it's the hooks. How do I have a core idea? And no matter how you see it, I got one shot to get you. I don't know how I'm going to get you, but I'm going to get you. And I'm going to set all these different hooks, and those are going to be the different experiences that you can have. And so Voice of Men's a really great one. We showed up in a lot of different places, and people saw it through different mediums, from PR to social to the TikTok. It's even on TV. So that's the flip of how we think about our channel mix. It's no longer this linear journey that every consumer is going to perfectly fall into, and it's more, I got one shot, I'm going to get you. The one thing I would talk about is social's a big piece of that, and Luz will speak to that. She knows it better than most in this room. But the one thing I don't want to skip over is the importance of TV, and especially for a brand like ours, 1,200 locations across the country. There's still this element of mass, and I know that everyone wants to abandon TV, and all the stats are going to tell you that TV's dead and you don't need to have it. It's still the big blunt instrument. And you just need to think about that as a really big impact driver. And so what we do is we really try to focus around content that we know that people are going to be talking about during. So live sports is the king of that. You go on X, we're going to get really good at this, at X. During some sort of live sport, it's probably 15 of the top 20 categories of trending categories is about that game or a certain player. So live sports really drives that conversation. So that's a great spot for us to show up. The other one, don't sleep on Bravo, because when those premieres happen and those shows, that appointment viewing TV, that's when people are talking. And so we really, a big part of our TV plan is to make sure we show up in programming where people are instantly talking about it. And so it's getting more and more rare, but we find that. And then the other big piece is connected TV. I don't know, does anyone flip through cable stations anymore? Do you ever just sit and just flip through stations? You go to Netflix and then you see what America's watching and you pick one of those 10. That's what you do. And so those are other ways to buy in. All those different apps have different ways that you can buy into either. Essentially CTV replaces two things. It replaces Prime TV by going into that kind of high impact original programming. And then it covers your cable, and that's go to Netflix and just scroll till 30 minutes later you found something. And so really just making sure, and I'll let Luz touch more based on our platform strategy, but making sure you don't miss those opportunities for impact, because that really is when you're going to reach that large, especially if you have a large mass brand like Chili's.
Yeah, and for social, I think being really grounded on that each channel behaves incredibly different. You have different audiences in each channel, so cross-pollinating content is no longer what we do. We really need to understand what people are experiencing on TikTok, what people are engaging with on TikTok, but then on the flip side, creating totally different reels and understanding what people want to see on Instagram reels, right? And then on X, we need to understand that it's conversational, right? Yes, it's news, sure, it's negativity, but what Chili's can offer is a lot of fun and creativity. If you scroll through our X right now, you just see that it's like stream of consciousness all about Chili's. That's really relatable. Like, we want you to see that tweet, that X, and be like, LOL, that's me, and like it. And so understanding like each of your audiences, being agnostic to what each of the channels do, and there'll be campaigns. Boys to Men is a great example where we share like brand assets across the board. But then on TikTok, we need to take a different execution, right? Should we do a duet video perhaps where everyone sings the jingle? Yes. And then on Instagram, like, should we launch merch because we know merch performs really well on Instagram and that's what people want to see. And so just really understanding how you approach each channel for big campaigns, but even just the day-to-day.
Yeah, thanks for that. So, what is a Chili's menu item that we should not snooze on?
The honey chipotle chicken crispers, they've been on the menu forever. They're a cult favorite for a reason. Don't sleep on them.
Guys, I did not prep her for that. I did not ask for that in advance, and she said that so fast. So I trust it.
I'm in the crisper family, but the Nashville hot crisper is the new one. I worked on KFC for 7 years. I have eaten every fried chicken on the planet at this point. My doctor will agree. But the Nashville hot chicken, our culinary team, we got Wendell's here, and I don't know if VP or Alex or Corey are here, but our culinary team did a phenomenal job with the Nashville hot chicken. Do not miss it. It is so good. So I'll be the one.
Awesome, thank you. I will leave us with a quote from one of my favorite Peloton instructors, Cody Rigsby, who has said, "You want to make them turn their heads like a plate of fajitas coming to your table at Chili's." Thank you guys. Thank you so much.